Hello and welcome to One Spark Stories, the podcast that connects you with innovators, creators, and some unsuspecting risk takers who share about navigating highs and lows, laughter and tears, and how sometimes all it takes is one spark of inspiration to find your way to happiness. This podcast will leave you inspired to take action on your own purpose as we connect, create, and celebrate unique sparks around the globe, once again proving that it is a small world after all. I am thrilled to have the wonderful Cassie Tucker with us. Cassie has spent years in social media, marketing, public relations, photography, and consulting at local and even international levels. She is incredibly savvy as a storyteller and loves seeking new ways to engage audiences, which undoubtedly is why she has been so successful moving from corporate agencies to running her own marketing business, while also co-hosting Marketing Happy Hour podcast.
Hello, Cassie. So we are going to jump into it. The way that I'm going to start your mind is by firing off some questions that'll give you one spark. Because one spark, we're all about what is that moment that just lit an idea, a passion, a change in your life. So, ready for some rapid fire questions?
Yes.
Okay, let's do this. First up, what was your favorite childhood toy?
Probably my Barbies or some Disney princess toys that I had as well. You know, the little character toys back in the day. Those were definitely my favorite.
Yes. What would you say is the biggest misconception of you?
One of the biggest things that I've dealt with is people looking at me and thinking that I can't do what I'm doing because of my age. So probably the fact that, hey, she's young, she can't achieve the success she's achieved or the goals that she set out in front of her. So I would say that's definitely the biggest one.
Oh, we're going to have to dig into that. I know that feeling. Oh my goodness. Yes, we have to circle back to that. Okay, next up, what is your go-to side dish for events?
Ooh, so you're talking about like menu item?
Yes, Super Bowl's coming up. What would you bring?
Oh gosh. Okay. So mac and cheese for sure is one of our recent favorites. So we found this recipe on Instagram from this guy. His username, I believe, is the Golden Balance, and he's a chef, and he creates like these quick recipes on Reels. And we found his mac and cheese recipe, and we've now made it for Christmas and Thanksgiving, and it is a crowd hit. So that's definitely our favorite right now.
Okay, I'm a sucker for mac and cheese. We have a family recipe, but now my son makes a specialty boxed mac and cheese that we've had to pivot to for a while, but I'm okay with that. So, I'm going to have to look this real up. Yes.
I love
perfect. That. Who would you pick to play you in a movie?
Ooh, so I get compared to Nina Dobrev pretty frequently. So she was from Vampire Diaries back in the day. Honestly, I'd probably just have her because she's kind of like fun and a little bit silly sometimes. So I feel like she kind of looks like me, but she also fits my personality to a T, essentially. So probably her.
Perfect. Why did the chicken cross the road?
To not get to the other side, he had a family waiting for him on the other side, and family comes first. So he's trying to get back to his family.
Love that one. Yes, run, chicken, go.
Yes.
Be free. Okay, and then this one, Cassie, here's where we're going to be. I'm very intrigued by our Disney past. Where would you pick? Today you can fly or drive to Disneyland, Disney World, on a Disney cruise, or would you go on an Adventures by Disney trip?
Oh, that's a great question. You know, honestly, I feel like I need a relaxing vacation right now. And when I went on my last Disney cruise, it was a very enjoyable, relaxing time. So I'd probably pick that in the moment because, you know, some of the park days are a little bit crazy and tiring essentially. So I'd probably go for a cruise right about now.
I'm with you. Let's go. Let's go.
Yeah.
So what would you say is your motto?
Oh, that's a great question. One thing that Lee said recently, I can't remember the exact quote, but something about how great companies are built around great systems or something to that matter. I am a big believer, especially recently, in systems and building out a team that is able to implement those systems and act upon them. So that's been a big thing I've been implementing in my business, but also the businesses that I collaborate with, is just building out really strong systems that help you get more done, help your team to be more efficient. So that's probably, I would say, my current motto. I know it's a little bit more business centric, but something I'm trying to live out, even in my personal life too.
No, that's absolutely perfect. And it leads so well into the next question and which direction I want to go, because you mentioned Lee Cockrell, former executive vice president of Walt Disney World Resort. And Lee is what brought us together actually at the Mastermind event. And I'm curious, for me, Lee was part of a spark in my life. Several years ago, we had a conversation and he just really ignited a change, a moment. So for you, what would you say was that one spark, a pivotal moment? And I do believe we have multiple moments that come and go throughout our lives, but what would you say would be the one spark that got you where you are now?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say, before I started my company, I was in corporate jobs. I worked for an agency in New York City. I also was a marketing director for a restaurant firm here in Florida. And one of the biggest things that I noticed was there wasn't a big focus on people and relationships. And so a lot of what we were doing was good, content was good, marketing was great, the business was successful, but I saw this kind of gap in the way that we were treating clients, treating customers. There wasn't a big focus on the people. It was more of a focus on, okay, how much money can we make this year? How many sales can we get? That kind of thing. And so I just had in my mind this idea that I could do this stuff better, especially with the agency side. I could serve clients. I could provide a really great service to people while also prioritizing relationships and making sure I'm listening and I'm empathetic towards these people. And I'm understanding that if that piece isn't locked in, my business will not be successful over time. So I slowly tried to figure out a way that I could break off on my own and do this thing myself and serve clients while also having that piece that not a lot of agencies prioritize. And so that's kind of like the spark that led me to creating my own agency and branching off on my own in relationship and clients and our customers is a big piece. And that's something that I definitely learned during my time at Disney. And something that Lee does talk about a lot is how people are the heart of your business. They're the heart of what makes you successful. And so you need to always focus on their needs and listen and be empathetic towards what they want.
You are so spot on. That people focus is going to be the change maker for your business, for any business that is looking to really not only retain their employees, but bring in new ones. That intent to recommend and refer and bring everybody in, it's because people feel welcome. So tell us about your business. You have taken it into your own hands, and I love that, from one entrepreneur to another. Tell us about what you're doing now with your agency.
Yeah, absolutely. So my agency is called Cam Media. And it's funny, I mentioned agency, but we love to call ourselves the anti-agency because, again, historically with agencies, it is that big, how many clients can we get in? How many people can we push to one team member? So for me, I was managing 9 clients at one time, and that became hard to be able to prioritize that relationship with our clients, listening to our clients. With an agency sphere, you're not in-house with a company. So it takes more time to learn what the company needs, learn more about their mission and what they're trying to to accomplish with their business. And in turn, that makes that marketing piece a little bit more difficult. So when you add on, 9+ clients to a person, they have less time to be able to understand the needs and kind of the goals of that company. So for me, we are a full service creative agency. So we do everything from photo to video, but also everything is strategy driven. So making sure we're building out a core strategy based around our target market. And again, the goals of that company. So we spend a lot of time in that discovery phase, having calls and meetings with these companies to ensure that everything we're doing is intentional and focused back on the goals of our clients. So that's a big thing that we focus on. And, we'll also do stuff. We dabble a little bit in PR and copywriting here and there. I love copywriting. But it's funny, this piece that I'm doing here has kind of branched me off into what I'm doing with Lee Cockrell and his team and Jody. So more of like the project management side and marketing as well. And so the way I got connected with them was through my agency experience in New York. I ended up reaching out to Lee and basically offering my services to him. And over time, we maintained, again, that relationship that led me to what I'm doing now with them. And so, Katie, you and I talk about this a lot. I'm definitely an integrator. I have a creative side, but I feel like my integration organization side of things is really my strong suit. So that's something I'm able to also apply both to my clients at Cam Media, but also my work I'm doing with Jody and Lee and Dan and the rest of our clients as well.
I love that. And as a visionary, I am eternally grateful for the integrators of the world. You keep me on schedule. There's no doubt that my daughter is an integrator. She is my walking human calendar, and I love it. So it's amazing the way that you said you just reach out to him, because I think people underestimate the value of making the phone call, sending the email, reaching out to people that you might think are untouchable or are so beyond, what you would want to imagine or what you could imagine yourself aligning with. And a big belief, one of the values and core pillars of One Spark is that connection, creation, and celebration. And you mentioned the way that you continually can maintain that relationship with Lee. And now here you are running that work. Would you say that was a pivotal connection within your vision in that stirring that something's not right with the big corporate agency? And how would you encourage other people to take that step when they're so unsure? Should I call that person? Should I not? Will it look weird? Will they ignore me? What would you suggest?
Yeah, I'm a big believer in reaching out and just making that introduction for yourself. I know for me, at a younger age, that was a scary thing. And I talk to people all the time who are in college or even prior to college who are like, I really want to work for this company. I really want to get X experience, but I don't know what to do. And I say, take some time, research the company. Again, go back to the core needs of that company and understand how you could play a part in what they're doing right now. And just find an email address. This information is readily available online. And so do a quick Google search. A lot of this information is available just readily on someone's website or on their LinkedIn, and make that connection, introduce yourself and make it, obviously, like you want to make it kind of double-sided, offer something that could be of value to them, but also maybe see if they'd be willing to get coffee with you, either virtually or in person. And most of the time, I've never had really an issue with building that connection and also scheduling a meeting with someone. I would say about 2 or 3 of my past jobs were made because I just reached out, and there wasn't a job really listed online. But it's kind of that crazy moment where you reach out at that right time, whether they're about to open up a position or you identified maybe an area where you could meet a need that they have, and they realize, hey, like we do need this person, even though this isn't a position we were looking out for. This is something that this girl could help us out a lot with, and so we bring her onto our team. So you really never know obviously it comes with time, learning how to not pitch yourself, but be able to communicate that those essential skills that you have that would be valuable to people. But, I've been able to build so many valuable friendships and relationships just through reaching out on Instagram or on LinkedIn or via email. And so it's amazing to see over time whether those connections, turn into something right away or 4 years down the road, like it happened with Lee and Jody. It took time, but it's just maintaining that relationship, checking in on email, asking how their family's doing, and then you never know where that connection could lead to.
Yes, it's that authenticity. Don't just message and say, hey, I need this. No, lead with curiosity, lead with interest in them and what they can, what you can learn from them. That is something that is often underappreciated in leaders, that they're just like us. They've been there, done that. They have families, they have passions, and they want to be heard every bit as much. So any opportunity to grab a coffee, they will likely jump at it and just ask questions, and you hit on the next pillar so beautifully. And that's create. By having these connections, you have now created your own opportunity. It is something that I've been able to do. And quite frankly, the word that always makes me shudder is luck. So often people say, oh, you are so lucky. And it's like, no, I mean, maybe there's like 5% luck of timing, right? But you have to work for it. And so what would you say would be that opportunity that you created that you didn't even think was what you wanted to go? Now with the work you're doing with Lee Cockrell, Dan Cockrell, Jody Mayberry, you've got all this unfolding. What have you created within that first contact with Lee you never would have imagined is what you'd be doing?
Yeah, absolutely. And similarly too, with just creating my own agency, one thing that I think people saw, and again, that goes into, I'm a big fan of people being able to brand themselves online. So not only branding, but constantly being present and sharing updates on what you're doing and sharing your expertise for other people, because people get value out of that and what you're willing to share, but also people pay attention to that. And whether they can, use you as a firm or an agency or as a consultant now, but over time, as you continue to share and talk about what you're doing, maybe even a few years down the road, they'll remember you and say, hey, Cassie is constantly sharing about this, or Katie's constantly sharing about this. I really think she could help me with this project I'm working on, or helping me find my spark and communicate my spark for people. And so I really do think, obviously, that relationship piece came into play. So checking in occasionally, seeing how things are going, but also just being present online, sharing what you're doing, because I do think that's kind of what led to that re-spark of relationship with Jody and Lee, is they knew I had an expertise in marketing. They knew that was a need that they had. And so that ended up leading to a later conversation of, hey, can you fill this need that we have? I've seen you post about this stuff online. And so obviously that relationship that we had built over time was that foundation. But in addition, them knowing that I could fill X or Y, need or space that they had in their business was something that led to that spark of conversation and us partnering up together.
Excellent. So there's so many social media platforms out there, and sometimes people become overwhelmed. Everybody's on Reels, everybody's on TikTok, do this, do that. How would you suggest people approach that when the burnout can be very real, very fast, and they want to be out and branding themselves? How do you recommend they approach all the different options without reaching that burnout point?
Yeah, that's a good question. So the one thing I would say is taking a step back first. So again, identifying, what am I trying to communicate for people? What is my unique ability? What is my kind of purpose and drive behind my business? So outlining those pieces first, and then identifying your niche in a way. So that's a big word that's thrown around nowadays, but it's basically that core target market that you're able to serve well with what you're providing. So once you have those pieces kind of outlined and written out, then you can identify, okay, what's my next step? What platform is that target market the most present on? The one thing I would say is don't try to bite off more than you can chew initially. A lot of people will come to me and they're like, I want to be on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, like everything all at once. I just started my business yesterday, but I want to be on these platforms. And I say, hold on, like slow down for a second. I understand the want to do that. And you see businesses doing well on social, you see that need develop inside of you to want to be present on all of these platforms immediately. And it's a lot of work. And if it's not done intentionally, it's not going to be able to serve your purpose for reaching people, adding value, driving leads to your business. So I would say, first, start off with a couple. Obviously, having a website is big too. So when you are posting, being able to drive people back to your personal platform that you own, where people can learn more about you and understand, again, that need or that void that you can fill with your services or your product. And then, Facebook and Instagram are good, obviously, but, LinkedIn is such a valuable platform and I love it. It's one of the only platforms now that is allowing people to continue to reach people organically. A lot of these platforms are filled with these crazy algorithms and it's hard to get people to see your content, but LinkedIn is definitely a really good place to reach more and more people even now. So again, it goes back to your goals. It goes back to that target market. So identify those first and then identify where that target market is and where they live and just start with that. And then you can always grow.
I love that. And the next layer to it then is, what about the concerns that I give away too much? I have a freemium that I offer on my website. And now you're saying, share my knowledge on social. Oh my gosh, they're going to have all of it for free. They're never going to buy what I'm trying to sell. How do you dispel that belief as well? Because that is a very real concern from people, especially starting out. It's like, it's mine. What do you say to encourage, no, share your knowledge?
Yeah. So the biggest, simplest concept I can say to that is people want something out of you on social. It's just the nature of the game. When people come to your page, they're asking themselves, what can I get out of this person's content? What can I learn? What value can I pull away from it? So honestly, if you're not sharing value on social, if you're not offering some sort of piece of value that people can take away from your page and your content, people aren't going to follow you, unfortunately. The biggest thing I'll say too is identify a problem that people have that you're able to speak to in a solution. And that's that value piece that you can add to people. Obviously, there is a way to give away too much, but there's also a way not to. So, obviously you want to have your core offerings that you're providing. So create a lead magnet, create those micro pieces of content that speak to your macro pieces. So if you have a course, you can pull out snippets here and there to kind of tease that offering. And so there's a way to do it, obviously testing over time. And as you become, bigger with your company and you build out more products and services, you can begin to share more because you're offering more. And so I would just say, test it out, see what people are attracted to the most, but overall you want to add value because it's going to be difficult to grow your audience and to get people engaged with what you're doing. And unless you are doing that.
Yes, you are so spot on. I could listen to this all day because you're throwing out the language in a way that I'm like, oh, she's so savvy. Like she just knows this. And it's obvious why you have your own business because you speak the language so comfortably. And when I think about giving away too much, you not only have your social platforms, you have a thriving business that you are rapidly growing, but now you've also got this podcast where you continue to not only share your knowledge, but you're having other people come on and share their marketing knowledge. So it's really not, you give it all away in all the platforms, but yet you're growing. And so tell us more about the podcast and what sparked that idea.
Yeah. So it's funny. So my friend and I, she's my best friend and she works for corporate marketing. She works for this media company now that's based in New York. And we were just texting one day and we're like, we need to put together some sort of podcast. Clubhouse was getting big, which I honestly don't know what's up with Clubhouse now. But at the time last year, after the pandemic hit, voice and these digital ways of connecting with other people were becoming massive. Zoom just completely skyrocketed. Everyone used Skype back in the day, but it's like, now what is Skype? So all these platforms were booming. And so we just texted, we said, hey, let's come up with some sort of way to share knowledge with people. And so it was just born out of passion that we had for doing that. So we launched on Clubhouse. We just started by creating a club on there, hosting once a week, bringing in different thought leaders from different industries in the marketing space and just having them share information on what they're doing, what their company is doing, different strategies that people can apply to their companies as well, but also just having that career piece. So one of our biggest audience segments is the Gen Z millennial demographic. So a lot of it is people offering not only strategies that, again, they've applied to their business, but also how did they get to where they are? What is that spark that led them to do what they're doing? And what are those things that people can take away from that and apply that again to their careers as well? So we found Clubhouse after a few months. We're like, this isn't where it's at. Definitely the podcasting was something that kept coming up in our brains. So we decided to shift it over to a podcast. So now we are 3 seasons in. We're about to wrap season 3. We are currently trying to put together a plan for season 4. But again, we just have people from these amazing brands come on, and it's become very women focused, which is awesome because again, we want to be able to add value to women who were, at a place where we were at one point. And, women, it's still just something where us as women have low confidence in these skill sets and in these career paths. And it's sad, but we want to be able to encourage women and share these stories that other people have in corporate America and encourage them to go for their dreams, try to apply for these massive companies that they want to work for because it is possible. So we want to show that that's possible. And so we've had people from LinkedIn, Google, Duolingo, these huge companies, and they share everything. They're not afraid, again, to just explode with value for people. And so we've had some awesome feedback and people have learned so much from it so far. So we're excited to continue and see where it goes.
It really has been fantastic. And as a elder millennial, I myself have found it immensely valuable because I love technology, but I don't always get it. So it's been a really, really fun podcast, and let alone the fact that it's the happy hour podcast. So I always get some ideas, even if I'm listening in the morning on a treadmill, I'm like, oh, that drink sounds fun. Yeah. So I love the little fun twist to it. It's very cool. What is the usual drink that, what is that called?
Honda.
Yes, that is the one.
Oh my gosh. That is so, I'm going to have to tell her that. So that's a hilarious thing. She literally loves that drink. My co-host Erica. And yeah. And she's like, I'm going to drink the same drink every week and people are going to start to notice. And she was like, honestly, maybe we could get Honda to sponsor us one day because everyone's just going to know about Honda through us. So that is hilarious that you remembered that. I'm going to have to tell her that because people are starting to pick it up. So, but yeah, we love her and I, we're big wine fans. We love to go out to happy hour, try different restaurants. So we kind of paired our passion for food and beverage with, the marketing side of things. So it's been fun to implement that little fun piece at the beginning of the episode.
I love that. Yeah. And consistency matters. You were consistent with reaching out to Lee, and here you are. I consistently go to Disney and now I have an annual pass. I mean, consistency makes it, we find our passion. So keep that happening. I think you'll have her on the podcast here before too long. That is so cool. I love it.
Thank you.
I love it. So I want to circle back to the very early part of your story, because when I started to realize how much we overlap, it just made me laugh. So even though you are a Floridian again, you have family up here in Ohio, you did the Disney College program. How would you say that those early years have shaped, or those experiences, that energy shaped where you are? How has that impacted, especially thinking of the college program? That had a huge impact on my life, but tell me about that.
Yes. Yeah. So I was born and raised in Dayton, Ohio. Like you said, go Bengals. We're excited about the Super Bowl in a couple weeks here. But I moved to Florida when I was probably about 8 or 9 years old. So I grew up in Florida most of my life. And ever since I was younger, like you could ask my mom, I have been obsessed with Disney. As a kid, I watched all the classics. They were constantly running. I loved Star Wars. I loved, Marvel when that started coming out. So Disney has always been such a massive part of my life. And so when I was in college, I learned about the college program. I actually applied 3 times and finally got in the 3rd time. So I took some time away from my junior year in college. I was going to school over in Tampa where I was living, and took online classes, but I did the college program. So I worked in merchandising, did strollers like you, which is hilarious. So I was at an Animal Kingdom was my home park, and I just learned so much. I learned a lot about, again, customer service, how to promote products, and how to talk to people in a way that honestly gets them to buy something. So even just the training alone, I tell people every day, my time at the college program, I was there for about 8 or 9 months. That time has still continued to be so valuable to me today. The people that I worked with, I still keep in touch with. My leaders were amazing. So that kind of, again, just contributed to the way that I approach client relationships and customer relationships as well. And so after I left the college program, I went back to finish school, and I tried to get back into Disney to work. My goal was to go into kind of the corporate side of Disney and work in marketing or something creative there within the company, and door after door just shut in my face. And so I ended up actually at one point emailing Lee, and I was like, Lee, how do I get back into this company? Like, do you have any recommendations, resume, all that stuff? And honestly, he said to me, you left, and it's hard to get back in once you left. So I didn't have my spirits crushed, but I kind of had to do this pivot in my brain of, okay, what is my next step? Like, what am I going to do now that Disney is just not going to happen ever? I kind of fell into this negative mindset, which isn't great, because when one door closes, I'm a big proponent of another door will open down the road. And so it's funny because, again, I maintained over time that relationship with Lee and Jody. And now I'm working with, one of my bosses from Disney that I worked under as a college programmer. I'm working with all these incredible thought leaders and people who played such a big role in the company. So in a way, I am working with Disney in this weird roundabout direction I would have never in a million years thought would happen. But it's because that door closed and I stayed positive. After I got over that negative slump, I stayed positive. I maintained those positive relationships with key players within Disney. And that essentially kind of led me to where I am today.
Yes. Okay. So I'm a huge geek. I was getting chills because it's so true. Those connections matter. And the ones that you feel a pull to, you have to hold on to those. And we all get doors slammed in our face. It happens and it hurts. But the best thing is realizing that just means there's a new opportunity that you hadn't even considered. And it's just exciting to know where that came. For all the people that want that leadership, want that top role, want to, build their own business, it's an important reminder that we all start somewhere, even if that means pushing strollers. When I tell people to this day, that was my favorite job, working Oscar stroller rental at Hollywood Studios. I got to be the first and last person that people checked in with. And sometimes that was a blessing. Sometimes it wasn't always magical, but I could try to fix it. And I could try to make their day a more memorable one, despite whatever let them down. And it's important to find the value in those seemingly menial tasks, in those little moments, because it will grow. You can create your own opportunity out of those connections. And so I want to use all of that to say, now, what is that celebration? Our third pillar of One Spark is celebrating. We need to celebrate you. What is something that you're like, you know what, we haven't tapped into yet, or people don't realize this? What should we celebrate about, Cassie?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, I'm again just in this phase of slowly refining my business, figuring out what those niche services that I want to provide for people. So I guess celebrating discovery, celebrating refining, building out systems. Again, systems is a big theme for my year, and I'm getting there. So that's something to celebrate. I'm still very new in my business, so I've learned not to get down on myself for, looking at other people's success and not comparing mine anymore, because, everyone's journeys look different. Everyone's outlook and what they're doing is different. Everyone's businesses, even if it's within the same industry and kind of in the same scope of you, what you're providing to people is of its own unique value. And so that's something that I have slowly learned to discover, but I have that mindset now. And so that's just exciting to be able to push forward with that in the back of my mind, and be excited to see where, as I refine everything that I'm doing in my business, where that's going to lead me to, where I'm going to be able to work with clients and who I'm going to be able to serve. So I'm just excited about that future. And we have a lot of awesome stuff coming up with, our clients, with Lee and Dan and all of them, and being able to, again, kind of push out those Disney values to people and help them spread the amazing knowledge that they're sharing with people out to the world. And so we're just excited for what's to come in 2022.
Yes, I am so excited for you and everything you have shared through your connections, what you've created, and celebrating. You really have proven that even though we're both born Midwestern girls and did the college program, it really is a small world after all, right? I mean, just make your own opportunities. So thank you for reminding everybody of that. I cannot wait to check in and see where things grow. So thank you for your time. Where could people find you? Where can people check out the wonderful Cassie and follow all the adventures and excitement?
Well, thank you so much for your kind words. I'm excited to see where everything with you leads in this podcast. I cannot wait. I think it's going to be such a valuable thing for people, and obviously just your business overall and what you're building. So I'm excited for you as well. But yes, Instagram is a big one. Instagram and LinkedIn, I would say, are my two favorite platforms. So Instagram is at Cassie Tucker, and LinkedIn, I believe, is Cassie Tucker. I recently got married, so I'm like trying to remember what my name is on all these platforms. But yeah, Cassie Tucker is pretty much where you could find me on both platforms.
And if you're confused, don't worry. Just reach out and say, wait, what did she say? Because I've literally texted her before and say, wait, is it Tucker? Is it Palmer? What do I do? So it's awesome.
Yep.
Perfect.
All the time.
Thank you so much, Cassie. I appreciate it. And any final thoughts, any final words?
Yeah, just again, theme of this podcast episode, just go for it. Ask for what you want, even if you don't see that opportunity available for you online. And again, if one door closes, stay positive, stay passionate towards what you're doing, and another incredible door is going to open down the road.
You got it. Thank you so much, Cassie. And to everyone listening, stay well and stay curious. Make it a magical day, right? Thank you, Cassie.
Thank you.
Fun fact, you are listening to this right now. Later, Tater.